be heard.
Okay, good morning and welcome back to Plannercraft. I'm Natalie and I'm going to be taking you through SCAL today. So we're waiting for a few more people to join us, so I won't be dashing off too far ahead too quickly, so you've got plenty of time to grab a drink, notepad, anything else that you need.
Morning Carol. Morning Pam, morning Joe, Pat, Joyce and Deb. People who've said hello so far. If there's people lurking in the background, if you want to say hello just so we know who's in the room.
And apologies for the delayed start. Okay, so if you all want to have shortcuts a lot open, and you should come up with a screen like I have currently. Morning Maggie. Morning Karine. Hi Dina.
Okay.
Hi Pam.
Let's do it on there. Give me a sec.
Hi June, if you haven't said hi already.
June?
Yep. Hi Anne-Marie. Hello Julia. And you're not the village idiot.
Not by a long shot, are we?
Hi Dave. Yes, he's alright. He was a little stressed to begin with, but yeah. I'm sure Ian will fill you in on the joke that was the doctor's this morning at some point.
In a minute, hang on.
Oh, I hope not, Karine. Karine says that she's lost me, but I can see her okay.
Mine seems to be okay, but I think we should have Joan joining us soon.
Cool.
Sarah says she didn't get a notification, just saw Karina commented.
No, my notification was late as well, which was a bit annoying. Otherwise, it makes it a bit easier to get on stream. So, hi June from Australia. Cool, blimey. So I understand if at some point you want to have a break, June. I'm not expecting to stay up all night.
Yeah, but don't forget, John, do the quick blurb about don't panic because it's
Right.
it up. So
Okay. So before we go too far, I will do all my usual blurb. The videos that we're doing today will be staying up on the group. Oh, Claire says she's lost us too. That's not good.
Nice. I can see it in both windows.
That's not good.
I can't see you lost sound and.
Okay, hang on a sec. Let me just check
Streamlabs.
Streamlabs. No, Streamlabs says it's fine.
Hang on, I can see you on PC, but I need the PC for the software. I can't find you on my iPad. Help, please. And Claire says it's back now.
Okay. So, do you want to reply to Josie on how to find it on her iPad for me, Ian? So you need to go into the Intro to Shortcuts a Lot group. Dina, don't know if you can help. I have SCAL 5 on an old laptop and want it on the new one. You just need to reinstall and switch your product key across,
yeah,
don't you?
Product key across with it, yeah.
So yes, we can help you do that after. So, where was I? Right, videos.
Videos.
Videos will stay up after today, so don't think that you have to watch it live and work through. So if you want to watch first and do later, that is absolutely fine too. Okay, they're going to be up for a while. What I will say to those of you that are watching live, just bear in mind that when you're commenting on something I was doing 30 seconds ago. So when you're asking questions, can you be really precise about what you're asking about, because otherwise it's like a game of memory, isn't it? So if you can just do that for me, that'd be really helpful.
Like it says, don't blame me, I forgot to register and I can't find the email.
Oops. Okay, Maggie, if you want to just watch for this first section, when we get to lunchtime, we'll have a bit of a break then anyway. So if you need help during the break to do that, we can help you do that, can't we?
Oh, we'll try, yeah.
We'll try. For those of you that are watching on repeat, if you have any questions, then you can always message me. So that's Natalie Ballard. You can message Ian Ballard. Or you can message Plannercraft. Okay.
Or the group.
Or the group. Yeah, you can drop a message in the group. Sometimes it's a bit of a nightmare trying to go back through comments. So, just because Facebook is Facebook. So, if at any point you lose us, just let Ian know, because Ian's going to be watching comments intently.
See us now.
That's good.
I'm watching on my iPhone, so if you can enlarge everything up, that would be great.
You should be able to do the pinch pull thing so that you can zoom into stuff. We did try to do zooming, didn't we? And it didn't always work.
No.
So I will try and go as slowly as possible. If you do think I'm rushing ahead, don't be afraid to say help, slow down. Okay? I try to go slow, don't I?
Yes.
And if you have any machine specific questions, then I would say leave those to either towards the end of this session or towards the end of session 2. Okay, so with all that out of the way, don't think I've forgotten anything this time, have I?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to go to new project. And we're going to go for a 12 by 12. We're going to keep it nice and simple. And if you want to give it a name, you can do. So we can call it exercise. Okay. And next you need to decide whether you're going to work in inches or millimetres. Either is fine. You just need to decide now which one you'd like to use.
Is it easy to change?
So you can go inches, millimetres or centimetres. And I'm probably going to work in inches because it's reasonably simple to do that. So we can go OK, and it's going to open up a new project. Okay. So far, has everybody got a new project on the screen? Oh, that's going to make comments interesting.
White on white again.
White on white again.
It's okay, I'm keeping an eye here.
I may have to let you do it in because I think that's going to be too distracting to try and...
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. I'll let Ian take over doing comments from here on in. So, here's our project mat. Now, one thing to bear in mind, to be a bit more specific about cutters and things, what you see is literally your edge to edge 12 by 12 mat. It doesn't show you your active area for your project. And I did a test yesterday with a full 12 by 12 mat, and what it does when you send it to a ScanNCut is it actually moves your entire design in and down a bit so that it starts it where the cutting line is, but that means that anything over this edge actually gets shoved off and you actually can't see the edge of it on your machine. So it's a...
Sorry?
That's okay, I was just looking at Sandra's comment. That is
Using
something to
SCAL
bear in
first.
mind when you're working with it, is don't go too close to your edges. So, across our toolbar first, so I'll do this in the usual order for what I've done the other courses. We'll do tools, so we have our selection tool, so this is your arrow tool where you move, select, resize. We have our selection tool, so that's if you want to select an area, so you literally use it like a little lasso, so you click and drag and draw a circle. You have your node tool, and you all know how much I love my nodes. So we have our text tool, and if we click and hold, you can see that it's going to pull out an extra toolbar menu. So any tool that has this little arrow, if you click and hold, it's going to pop up a few more options. So you can see top of the list, type tool, and that's just your normal standard text. We have vertical type tool, so if you wanted to put the word birthday but you wanted to just have it in a column but still reading the right way up, then you can use that one.
Sally's just joined and said, "Have I missed a lot?"
No, we've literally opened up a new document and I'm just going through the tools. And all the usual bit of blurb at the start applies. So Sally's done a few courses with us, so she's used to the spiel. Okay, the next is type on a path tool. So if you want to do something that's on a curve or around a shape, then that's going to be the one you're going to use for that. Type on an arch is literally going to put your word in an arch without having to draw a path first. Then next one down, we have our pen tool. So in SCAL it's called a draw tool, but we all know it's the pen tool. So it's the same whether it's in here or on canvas, if you're familiar with canvas. You can do a click drag for a curve and just a simple click to do a point. So I'll be coming back to these tools anyway, so don't think, oh, she's running off ahead. And we can close the shape. Just going to delete that off. Next you have your pencil tool, and this does all your freehand drawing. So this is easier if you do have a graphics tablet or if you're very skilled with a mouse. And we can actually draw a shape freestyle. The next tool is the brush, and that's going to give you an outline as such. So rather where the pencil tool will draw a line, this actually draws around your outline. And again, I'll take those off the map. We have an eraser tool, and if I use my rectangle tool, I can show you very quickly what an eraser does. And it is literally an eraser. So if you want to take out elements of a shape that you've imported, you can just use your eraser tool to do that really easily. So rather than you having to worry about subtracting and getting the right shape to take out those nodes, you can just go in there and just freehand with an eraser to take out sections. So your shape tools, you have a rectangle, a rounded rectangle, a circle, a triangle, a polygon, a star and a spiral. So your spiral is literally a path. So if I show you what I mean. So this is literally going to cut this line here. So if you wanted to do like a little spring for something, you could use that. And that's probably about the only time that you'll use it. Unless you want to put text in a spiral. So next you have an eyedropper tool. So if you want to copy the fill and stroke from another shape. You have your gradient tool, so that you can put in a gradient into a shape. You have your knife tool and your crop tool. So that's where you want to actually cut into your files. So for an example, you might just want to use a certain section to create a little bit of a decorative panel, and that's when you could use crop, for instance. I'm going to put some text on my mat just so you can see this next bit. So let's go for birthday. And I'll be going into the text in a bit more detail, but I'm just going to go for something that's going to be a little bit bolder so you can see what's happening.
Make it nice and big.
You want it nice and big first. Okay, with your select tool, we've got all these little handles around here, and that's set up here saying basic. If you want it to look more like the normal handles that you're used to, you can set it to advanced, but basic is good enough. So if we go down to this bottom right corner where we've got these two crossover arrows, we can resize nice and easily. If you press and hold shift, it's going to keep it in proportion. Okay, it's going to get bigger now. So with the distort tool, what we can actually do is actually start to play with that text, so that if we want it to look like it's coming towards us, we can do it that way. And we can do it this end. So if we keep that end point so that it is vertical, then it's going to just look like it's coming towards us. If we then start to actually twist these points, we can start to make it look like we're twisting our text, which is a really funky effect to get used to. So you can see this Y is upright, and then our B is starting to go a bit mad. Okay, so I'm going to do a bit more text and go back to something a little bit more sensible, and let's go for something nice and simple. Let's go hello, because it's good to do simple. And we're going to go and make it bigger so you can see a bit easier what's going on. So let's say you want to create your own stencils. You can do that really easily in SCAL. So we have a little stencil tool next, and we can just click and drag over the top, and it's going to do our little bridges for our stencil. So we can literally go and drop those in there, and that's going to hold in the centre of our E, and we can do the same to our O. Like so. So if there's a shape that you want to create a stencil of, that's one way that you can do it really quickly. If you want to get a bit more fancy, you can always use the erase tool, but that is the quickest way of adding a little straight line bridge. Now, if you want to zoom in a bit more, we can use the zoom tool, so I'm going to click and drag over the top, and we can zoom right into our word. We also have a ruler so that we can actually measure our text if we want to, and we have our hand tool. So the hand tool is going to actually enable you to move around your mat without moving the item on the mat. Have we not got Joan in yet?
No, I'm just saying she needs to accept the invite I sent her.
Okay.
And is Josie in? Can you just ask?
Yeah, I saw Josie.
She
I
is?
saw,
Okay,
she
She commented up on the one saying that she wasn't in. She'd lost. She couldn't find us, but.
When you're on a function like Stencil or whatever, how do you turn it off? Okay, so to change tool, you just click on the next one that you want to use. So if you're on the Stencil tool, you can just click on the arrow tool. Poor Josie's now going, I'm here!
That's alright. So I just saw a comment on the other post saying you're somewhere without me, see, so I was just. So I put 2 windows open.
Yeah, getting you confused. So if you want to zoom in and out using your keyboard, if you're on a Mac, you can use Command and plus and minus. So plus is going to zoom in, minus is going to zoom out. On a PC, it should be the same, just use Control instead of Command.
Okay, and Diana's asked, how do you delete?
To delete, you click on something so that you can see the little buttons around the outside, and you have 2 options. So if we go down to this panel here where it says layers, you can see that we have the little bin here. That means you can delete it from there, or you can just hit backspace. So if we do that, we get rid. Okay. So up in our top right hand panel we have document. So you can see that it's got our 12 by 12 that we selected when we open. You can see that it's got units saying inches, so you can change it in there if you need to. The vertical portrait doesn't really matter, it's a square.
Sandra says, can you show again how you got the fill on the word, please?
Okay, so let's type some text. Hello. To do fill, you're going to go to the little palette, and up here you can see that it says colour. If you haven't got anything in, it's going to say none, and it's going to look empty. And you can have shapes that have neither, even though they're still here in the layer palette. So you just click where it says none, go down to colour, and it will default to black. And we'll do the same for stroke. Okay. Now you can see we can also do tints of colour by changing our opacity, so we can make it lighter. We can change colour by clicking on that colour panel and then going to our colour picker, and we can go, okay, I'll have it in red. Go OK. You can see we now have red outline around. I've done that for a reason, so that you can now see the next bit. So then we have line width. So we can increase that so it gets bolder. We can change our corners, so how it's going to get round our path. So we can give it a nice rounded edge. We can make it bevel, which just means it's going to cut off. Or we can have it as a point. The mitre you only really need to worry about if you're going for the bevel, so that you can get your angles right. End cap is for when you're using an open path. So at the moment all of these shapes are closed. That means they start and join at the same point. If you have an open path, and I'll just draw one just so that you can see. So I'm just going to use a pen tool. So here's our path, and at the moment it finishes where our node is, right smack bang. We can then say, well actually we want it to round off at the end and extend beyond that node. So if you think about your node being your centre point, it's going to draw a little semicircle at the end. Or we can have it so it's squared off. So that still extends beyond that node, but it just dangles over the edge. So at the moment you probably can't really see the benefit of doing that. That's probably something that we're more going to get into when we start to work with open paths in terms of adding decorative features. But it's there and it's an option. Finally we have line style. So this is how you do your dashes. Are you cold? Oh. So if we select different ones, you can see it's going to affect our lines differently. Now bear in mind, because we've got this cap on, it's going to affect how our dash is applied to our line. So I'm just going to switch it back to this first one.
We'll go into more detail.
I'm going to go over paths so many times. I'm going to have you drawing flowers. They may not be very even flowers, but there'll be flowers nonetheless. And it's snowing, Ian.
It's snowing.
It's snowing big chunks.
Yay.
So it was a good job Dad's appointment was when it was.
Yeah, this is why we're in early.
So you can see we have quite a few different dashes that we can choose from. But it doesn't quite get to the point where it's nice and far apart for a score line, but there's other ways that we can handle that. Okay, so now that we've covered our fill and our stroke, I'll go back to my document. So we've set our size. Next is our grid. So you can have your grid lines set up like you do on your mat if you want to, or you can start to break it down. So if you are working in centimetres, for instance, you might want to have a centimetre grid. Basically, it's whichever way helps you to see where you're going easier. So if you want to change that on a document by document basis, you can do. It's not that it's fixed and it will, you know, change everything. You can just literally just do it in here and it just applies to this one. Underneath you have a box that says show guidelines and an edit button. Now if we click that edit, it's going to come with a little pop-up. And then you can add new guides to help you set up. So times that you're really going to use guides is if you're creating boxes or anything 3D. If you're working with grids, so if you want to do a grid card layout. Okay, Josie says she's only got the text menu. I was trying to see if there was an option for that. Should be down this right hand side. You should see 5 buttons.
Sorted.
Alright, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, guidelines, you can just add in there. Just click add and it's going to add it to the list in here. And go OK. And you'll see the guide appears. Workspace Alpha, don't worry about it because just leave it as is for now until you get it. We'll leave that for the next one. So the improvers.
They were hidden by my comments box. That's alright. No need to apologise. There's no such thing as staff questions in this place because displays turn up in all sorts of weird and wonderful places, don't they?
Yeah, especially with working on a Mac, so you know, it's just one of those. So, next button, show outlines only, is literally going to see. So if you look at the hello, when I tick the show outlines only, it's going to lose that fill. So that's useful if you're doing print and cut and you just want to see the cut line on its own quickly. So we'll be coming back to print and cut.
Scale 4 doesn't have the show guideline.
It probably does, but it has it somewhere else. So if you can't find it in the break, I'm sure Ian will be all too happy to set up a team viewer and we can have a quick look and see if we can help you out there. Show print margins, if we tick it, it's going to come up with the print margin for your current default printer.
Really,
Okay, so it's either going to tell you which printer it is, and what this is actually your printable area of your paper, so you want to make sure any design that you're printing stays within that box. Okay, so for those of you that have like the Brother A3, you'll see that that box is much bigger, but for my little Canon A4 laser, that's what it will do. Show registration marks doesn't seem to work on my Canon at all, but if you tick the box you should see some registration marks pop up. If not, again, let me know and we can see if we can fix that. Show page colour doesn't really make a lot of difference. It's only if you're then going to be using things like coloured paper that you might want to do that. And show template and set template. You can actually set up matte templates, and you can also download some extras. So if we go into here and into home kitchen, you can see that it's got some templates that we can use to set our designs up in. So electrical switches and things that almost certainly won't be suitable for the UK anyway. So, next one, and this is probably the one you're going to use the most.
And just ask where are the registration marks, please.
Okay, so registration marks. It's just underneath the print margins, and it should come up with little registration marks for you to do your print and cut. As I said, mine, for whatever reason, is not working. So I can honestly say it doesn't work on my screen and it doesn't work on the print, because I was trying desperately to get it to work for me yesterday and it would not do it. It might be you just need to refresh the page. Okay, so position and size.
Okay, I can cheat.
This is going to be the one that you're going to use the most. So, first of all, you have your X and Y position.
Pam says he's got no registration marks either.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a printer thing or if it's a software glitch thing, so I might see if I can get in touch with them and just say, I don't think this is working how it should.
Carol's asked, where did you get the set templates from? When I clicked, didn't get the templates.
Okay, so if you go into matte, there's a little arrow next to it. If you do the drop down, there's some home and kitchen ones in there that you can look at, so that you can actually add on. And the idea being that then you can apply your design to a martini glass or whatever. As I said, I think the use is probably few and far between. But it will work for you if you're getting like blanks from, how can I describe it? Like trusted suppliers who will actually provide the mats for you.
Carol found the templates.
Okay.
June said, no, I didn't get the templates, but you've just shown that again, so hopefully that should help with that one. And I don't think anybody's getting the registration marks working, so that is something to mention to SCAL.
Yeah, okay. So we can have a look at that and see if we can get that to sort itself out. And I'll pop up on the group when I get those working, because we were desperately trying to do it yesterday, weren't we? And it was just blood not playable. Okay, so X and Y. So you can see there that it's saying that it is 95.337mm across, so from 0, which is up here, it's 95 across, and your Y is your distance down. Now, as you can see, this little box next to it, that's saying where it's measuring that point from. So at the moment, it's from that top left corner. So if you want to do it to the centre, if you click in the centre, it's going to change.
June says she's got the template screen, but it's empty. I don't know if you can just show where you click to get there.
Okay, so if we go back to templates, set template, little drop down there, so that you drop down your mats, and it should say home and kitchen underneath. Can we shoot it? Poor thing, he's putting out of his misery. Okay, so the times that you'll find this useful are if you're trying to line something up to a box or to an aperture where you want to have your centres lining. The other way that we can do it is with our line tools in here. So you see, we've got our nudge tools, so you'll be familiar with these from your ScanNCut. So we can nudge using the buttons here.
Okay, Carol's asked a question.
You can also use the what?
Sorry, finish what you were saying.
Yeah. I was going to say you could also use the arrow keys, but go on.
Okay. Carol's asked, can you add more templates and how?
Okay, yes, you can add more templates. As I was saying, usually you would be looking at getting them from the supplier for that item, so that you know that you can fit it to that item, if that makes sense. So it tends to be more so for those people that are buying blanks to decorate. Okay, so our line tools need to have two objects on your mat. So whether that's text and a path or a shape, just so that you have two objects that you can select at the same time. And to do that, you're just going to click and drag all the way over the top, so that your bounding box goes round the outside of your shapes.
Anne says she's not familiar with nudge, etc. We're all beginners, sorry.
Okay, nudge is literally like just moving it a tiny amount. So as you're clicking the buttons, you'll see it move in that direction by a tiny fraction. So it's a bit more accurate than just using your mouse and dragging. So if you just need to slightly nudge something to a guide, then you can do it that way. So for instance, even when you have multiple selections, you can still nudge. So as I'm clicking it, it's going to move up the mat. I'll do it a few times so you can see that it is making a difference. Okay, and we can do it across. So, align. As long as you have two or more shapes selected, you can align to selection or to page. So I'll show you the difference. To selection, we'll do first. And what that is going to do is it's going to take those left hand edges from both items and it's going to align it to the left. The next one is going to align the two centres so that hello is going to move, or we can align it to the right. Okay, now if we change that to page instead of selection, it's going to align it to the left of our page, to our right of our page, or to the middle. Okay, so that's useful for whenever you want to align something that goes all the way to the edge of the mat. Just bear in mind what I said about your active area. So if you do that left align, it's going to bring it in from that edge when you then take it to your machine. So vertical align, and again that's going to work the same way. So if I go to selection, I can go to the top of the selection, to the centres, and to the bottom, and to the top of the page, the middle of the page, and the bottom of the page. So it's all down to this little drop down here as to which it does.
Coffee.
Hmm?
It's disappeared off his screen. Whee!
Yeah. Next we have our width and height, and you can see we've got this little blue tick box here. So what that means is as we change our width, it's also going to change our height and keep everything in proportion. And if we untick that box, we can edit one element at a time, so we can start to stretch things. And at any point you can retick and then go back to doing it in proportion.
If you take it out of proportion and then retick it, or keep it in proportion of what you reproportioned it to.
Yeah, so it won't ping back. If you need to undo it, then you have to go back to undo. Which is a good point to mention, undo up here.
Is your friend?
So yes, undo is your friend. You'll get used to it. So it's the big green button at the top, and we can go back. And it's going to do it little by little by little, because we've gone up using our little arrow keys to the right of our width. If you'd have just typed in a figure, which you can do, then it would just undo straight back to before that figure was put in. Okay. Finally we have rotate. And you can see that's going to do the 45 and the 90 degrees in either direction. So you can go clockwise or anti-clockwise. We have our flip horizontal. So that is the one that you want to use for your HTV, so that your text is backwards. And your vertical. Is there any questions? Because I can't see comments at all. It's useless.
No, at the moment, no.
No? Okay.
I will let you know if any pop up.
So, we've done our document, our position, our fill and stroke, style. So this is where we can just select our path. And I'm going to drag it down and out of the way. So we have normal, shadow, so you can create a shadow around it. You have shadow rounded, which isn't going to make a lot of difference on the path, to be fair. And you have blackout, so if you have something that has a lot of detail to it with little apertures in the middle, if you do blackout, it's just going to be a solid. So that's a nice quick way of doing it. I'll get into the wild bit when we actually start going into doing layers. Don't want to blind you too much with science first thing. That'd be kind of cruel. So, next we have cut line type. And if we click on that, you can see we can have cut, draw, print and cut, cut, print and cut, print. Oh, excuse me. That was uncalled for. So, cut and draw, pretty obvious really. So whether you want to cut it with a blade, or whether you want to draw it with a pen or your foil quill,
And just
or embossing tool.
Just ungroup that selection.
Okay, so it wasn't grouped in the first place, but I will go into grouping and ungrouping. I'll just finish off this section here. So, next layer, print and cut, cut is where you want to actually do your cut registered to something else. And print and cut, print is where you only want it to print and not to send it to cut. So the times that you might want to use that, for instance, is if you have an image in your document, which I'm going to get onto shortly. And finally, our last little window is text. So we have our text here that says hello, and we can double click on that, so it's going to turn blue. When it's blue, we can change what font it is. So let's go for something totally different. I'm just going to think about it, and it's going to change. So let's talk about choosing good fonts for things. If you want to cut out this font and you see it and it comes in like this with all this red or whatever colour your stroke is, choose a different font, because that just means that it's going to get chewed up by your cutter, something chronic. So there's lots of little brush stroke bits with Better Works. So if we go to something else, rectangles. If you see this appear in your text, that means that there isn't the right character in the font. So that could be that the font's corrupted, or it's just trying to do something that font's not capable of.
Josie says I don't have any font drop.
Okay. Hopefully you've got view all at the top.
Font's dropping down just Arial.
Oh. That's a bit...
And Evander said my text didn't turn blue. You have to re-highlight it to make it
Yeah, you
turn
have to
blue.
double click on it. So make sure you have your text tool selected and double click, and it should turn blue. If you're only seeing Arial, just make sure that you have actually double clicked and highlighted your text. So as long as it's blue and it says all up here, where it says view, then you should be able to go and pick a font. So let's choose one that I know I like to use quite often. I was going to go Beach actually to start with. There we go.
Josie's
Beach.
got them. It was the view all that she needed.
Okay. So when you have a text selected that you like, and I've just spotted something wrong with me, but we'll come back to that, we can actually add it to our favourites. So if we click on the heart, it's going to add it to our favourites. So that means when we go favourites and we go view, it's going to be in our little favourite list. So if you find a font that bulges well or that cuts well, then you can favourite it and you can come back to that font time and time again.
Anne's just asked, does this pick up your fonts on your computer, or are they installed within the program? Can you add more?
You can add as many as you like. It picks them up from your computer. So for instance, if I go down to S, and just for a bit of speed I will type S, it's just the same scrolling through. I'm going to go up to Scripty version 2, and I can put my own font in. So if you haven't seen Scripty before, it's a font that I designed.
Anyone says yes. Yep. Ah, yes, you've got it now.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to put that one in my favourites too. So then if I go back to my favourites, you can see I've got Beach and Scripty in my favourites. So it's a good way of building up a reference that you can use nice and quickly for different fonts that you like. So if you know something works well, rather than to fight with something that doesn't necessarily always do what you want it to do, you can just stick to those that you know.
Okay, Sarah Lou's asked, how did you get your ruler around your mat so vivid, please?
That's how it is.
Didn't you say you've got it selected as brother or something, because it comes up with brother at the top, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you go up to cut it, you can set your machine, but I haven't got there yet.
No, I know, but I'm wondering if that's what the difference is.
No, I can't. I think Sarah Lou means this ruler rather than the blue ruler.
I don't know. Which ruler do you mean, Sarah Lou? If you can let me know. If it's the blue one around the outside or the white one across the top. It says, I use your scripty font so much it's fab.
I like it too, but I could be a bit biased. I suppose I should also put Child's Play in my favourites too, but hey hey. Got a new one to put in there too.
You finished it yet?
Yeah.
Somebody says hers is pale blue. The one at the side. Around the mat.
Ah, I better know it is. Make sure you got your show page colour. Mind you, even that doesn't make that much of a difference to your ruler, to be fair. I suppose it does a little. Well, it could be optical illusion.
Pale blue and
yeah, but yeah, don't forget that's on that monitor. You know, it's not.
Yeah, but I can see it on here. It doesn't make that much difference.
Okay.
Lots of people are saying it's pale blue.
There you go. Mine just has to be different. Let's just check it's not anything in the preferences.
I just added my ScanNCut and it changed it. So there you go, yes. If you add it to the ScanNCut, it changes it to the vivid.
Ah, there you go. So, Cutter.
There you go.
Well, we're going to end up going through the menus backwards.
Do it backwards. I'm doing something else.
Okay. So, should you at any point need help and I'm not available, you've got help in there too. Windows, workspace, the difference between basic and advanced is minimal. So, I have mine in advanced currently, but with basic handles, because I quite like the handles. Project info, if you click that one, you can put in a title, even more importantly an author. You can put in email, so that people can contact you about the file. You can put a website. So all this is geared towards you selling your file, and in notes for instructions. It's also going to tell you any colours that you used. It always seems to lag a bit behind, so don't worry too much. It's going to tell you the fonts that you used, which is a useful feature. So if you are packaging a file for somebody else, then you know which fonts that you need to include. Now, there's a little bit on copyright on that one, but I will go into that one in the next course, and we start talking about actually selling files.
Okay, the link I've just put up at the bottom is the link to the scripty font, which is on the screen at the moment. Somebody asked where they got it from. So. You asked. Dinah.
So if you've used SCAL to create rhinestones, because we're going backwards, and this is going to be at the end of the process, and you've created a rhinestone design, it's actually going to tell you in here what colour, size and type of stone that you need to order and how many.
That's cool.
Which is cool. I like it. So you may see that I might start doing some rhinestone work just because it's blingy and I like sparkly things.
Magpie.
Yeah, it's total magpie. So cutter, mat size, and as I said, your mat sizes literally go edge to edge. They don't take into consideration your active area. Mat orientation, so if you want to work with a 12 by 24 in landscape, you can do. You've got preview, so I'll go a bit more into that one a bit further down the track when there's a bit more on the mat. So I can, at the moment, cut with Brother, but you probably don't have that one. We have My Cutter, so if you go into there and manage cutters, I'm going to presume that none of you set up your cutter yet, so ignore that mine says Brother over here. You're going to click on where it says unspecified, and we can go to Brother if you have a ScanNCut. If you have a Cricut, there's a little bit extra, isn't there, to go into with Cricut. And you have lots of other makes as well, so you don't have to have necessarily one of the well-known hobby machines. You might have a K&K.
Deb's asked, can you set a custom mat to get around the mat size issue?
You could use your guides, would be my recommendation. So set up your guide so that you can then have it set up through your machine. If that makes sense.
Silhouette cameos.
Yep, you can even go down to your silhouette portraits. I suppose I should have checked to see whether it said Graphtec, shouldn't I? Yeah, Graphtec.
Graph Robo.
Yeah, I can put in my Graph Robo.
If you haven't got any more.
Yeah, if I still had it, it's got CC 300. Oh dear.
Juice that I have got a sorry cut with brother. Yep.
Yep, so long as you got your brother in there, that's okay.
Does it give you options with the brother with model loss, does it not?
He just says ScanNCut.
Oh right, okay.
He doesn't even pick out between CM and DX.
Which there's no need to, because it's...
And then when you're happy that you've got the right selection, you can add it to list. And I will make believe that I've still got my Craft Robo. And just go done. And you can see straight away it's changed it to Craft Robo. And if we go back into Cutter, it'll come up with the Cut with Graphtec or Craft Robo. If we go to My Cutter, we can switch it back to Brother. So for those of you that have more than one, you can do it in there. Cutter settings. I thought then I was going to solve the issue. Cutter settings is a bit more advanced, so if you're finding that you're getting distortion in your file, so that's a good opportunity to do like a 10 by 10 square and send that to your machine, and then just check that it is coming out at 10 by 10.
Claire, try doing a refresh on the page.
Is it playing up, is it, again?
It's gone fuzzy, but I just can't read it, so any ideas? Just try to refresh it, because you've
Yeah,
got it on the iPad. So.
Yeah, refresh the page. If ever it goes fuzzy, if you just refresh it, it should ping back through.
Okay, you won't let me add says, does not need to add to list, need to choose export from the file menu, and export as FCM might be because have version 4. My won't add says have to export as an FCM or SVG.
Okay, so I will... That's right down this end. So I'm getting there. But so long as you've got it so it says Brother up here, that's fine. Or whatever your cutter is. So, view. Again, if you want to change your ruler units, you can do in there. Guidelines, you've got show, hide, lock, which is useful if they're getting in your way.
So I do have scale 5.
Yeah, so do we.
Yeah, but it won't let her add it. It says the same on hers.
That's odd. Have you already got it added by any chance? Let's see if it'll... Because it didn't have any issues adding it the first time, did it? Oh, it's just like that, yeah.
So
Yeah.
just press OK.
Yeah, you just go OK.
And it puts it across.
Yeah, it'll put it across. It's basically, what it's basically saying is, with some cutters you can literally send it to cut from the shortcuts a lot. And it will go through and it will just cut. With shortcuts a lot for ScanNCut, what you need to do is you have to export the FCM to your USB stick. Then take your USB stick and stick it in your machine and do it that way. Or you need to take it into Canvas to send it wirelessly. So, Brother have yet to do an update for sending it direct to your machine, but that would be cool if they did.
Update.
Well, technically it needs to be Brother because of the log-on information. Which is why Brother had to do the ScanNCut link for Adobe. Finally, you have tablet connection, and that's only really going to apply to you if you have the Shortcuts a Lot app. Now, if you don't already have it, my advice would be not to, to be honest. It hasn't got very good reviews, or at least on the iPad it certainly hasn't. So I would just stick to using it on your computer. One of those ones that got broken in an update.
Like most things.
Okay. So, in case you want to ever decide that you're going to do things like making cakes, and it has cake circles and weird things like that on it. Chances of you actually using it? Nah. Not unless you've got a Cricut cake hiding somewhere. Probably the only cutter that's kept its value is the Cricut cake, because it's the only one that can do it. Okay, and we can get to our font menu through here too, as well as our sizes. And when you have text selected, it's going to give you the option to convert text to outlines. So when you're selling your designs, or when you're sending them to cut, ideally you want to have done that step of converting that text to outline, so that your machine can easily read it and understand it.
Still going.
I know. I could have told you that. So, effects. These are fun. So let's get the hello. So when we work with effects, at this point it's going to change from being text to being a path. Just because. And there's lots of different options that we can play with. So during your break, you can have a play with loads of these, but I'm just going to give you a very quick tour of what we can do. So we have Bridge Warp, where we can literally put it on a bridge, and we can scale it and play with it. And you can see we can change the scale of our text, we can make it taller, and obviously the longer the word the better your bridge is going to be. So my little hello, it's not going to get very far. We can bulge. So if we take up our top curve and our bottom curve, and that's lost its selection.
Claire says refresh, but just the same.
What?
Claire says she's refreshed, but it's just the same.
Just keep refreshing until it should pick it up.
It's coming through okay on... You picking it up on your phone? It's not fuzzy on there.
No, I've got it really clear on my phone actually, for once. So, I'm just going to update my preview.
Anne says I still don't understand the difference between text and path.
Okay, so text is literally A, B, C. Path is the outline that makes an A and makes a B. So whereas when it's text, you can type and change it. So at the moment that hello is still text. So if I wanted to change the word, I can just double click it and change it. So type goodbye, for instance. Once it's converted to paths, then I actually have to drag those points or do something else to it. You can't just type anymore.
Delete it starting.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to get this to behave, because let's go opposite. The other day it was doing this so nicely for me, and I think because I picked my font. Let's go for a different font, shall we? Let's go Beach. Maybe. Let's go. Oh, please, please, please put that computer out of its misery. Beep, 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 beep. For those of you that can't hear it, it's like, ah. Oh. There we go. So you can see it a bit better, because my text is single line, so that we can see. If I do that, you can see it's going to pull on that corner bit a bit, just there. So it's quite a good way of seeing how our bulges are going to affect So you can have it separate together so that they keep even. And it's going to push it back up here.
Deb says my convert
Or you
text
can go
outline
opposite.
is greyed out even when it is selected.
Okay, so when your text is selected, if it says that that is greyed out, that probably means it's already a path. So if you look in your group here, you may see that it's changed to a path in there. He's trying to get it to
I don't know, or just
do something.
do something.
Okay, next effect I can show you is drop shadow. So this is where we can start to create little bits of detail for our design. And you can see with auto preview ticked, it should automatically update. If you're having problems getting that update to work, you can untick it and then just click the update.
Joe says mine is 2.
So just make sure that you have your text selected, and by now it should have changed to path anyway. So as soon as you've done that bulge, you're going to find that it's going to want to change that to path. So if I go back to the text tool, I'll type in something else.
My effects are all greyed out apart from 3NES puzzle and QR code. Is that
Yeah.
Yes, is it selected or?
Okay, so at the moment my text is text, and that's when all my effects except for object on a path are going to work. You can see that convert text to outlines is black, so if I click that, it's going to convert it to a path. I'm going to select it again, and it's still going to do it just because ugh. Okay, can
Maybe
you
it's the font
send
we are
Ian a screenshot of what you're seeing in terms of your layer palette? So this bit down here, if you're on a PC, you can take a screenshot using print screen and paste it into a post in the group. If you're on a Mac, you can use Command Shift and 4 and click and drag over your layers palette to then take a screenshot.
Dana says I hit nest and had a please wait box now for a while.
Oh, if it's still waiting for a while, it's probably that it's crashed and not told you. So in which case, just close it and restart it. Okay. So hopefully, so long as you have your group selected, you should be able to do most of the effects. If you've got it selected so that you can just do an element of it, might struggle a bit more. So can, literally like it's put it on a can, so you can make it so that you're looking down more on top of that can.
Just said I'm able to fit all shapes within the boundaries, maybe too many.
You can look from underneath the can and it's going to automatically change all your text. It's quite a cool, funky way of working. So, we've done drop shadow. Let's go for something else. Let's put in a box. Just a simple box. And we're going to go for a lattice. So lattice means that you can fill that shape with a lattice. You can dictate how much of a lattice you want.
Is the microphone okay?
Yeah, it says it's okay.
Shouted everybody. Yeah,
It's not flashing.
no. Maybe it's just volume, but
probably just deafened everybody trying to push that back on there, so I do apologise if that's the case.
Sunny says load font file, is that to put another one in? And Deb says sounds okay here.
Okay.
Okay, and
Load font file where?
not sure.
Okay. Right.
Jason says sounds okay. Anne's just asked, what will the machine do with these things? I've only used it to cut simple shapes so far.
Okay, so the machine can do pretty much anything you tell it to. So one of the benefits of SCAL, for instance, is that you can tell it to fill without drawing the outline. So if you want to, there you go, just because it's the next one on the list.
In text, apparently.
Okay, I'll have a look at that in a minute. So with line fill, we can change our line spacing in much the same way that we can change it on our ScanNCut. For those of you that use ScanNCut, you can change your line direction if you want to, so that it draws it like so, rather than just going ding, 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 if that makes sense. So it'd be a little bit quicker. Keep original outline if you want it to draw both the fill and the outline, and then you would tick that. Angle is exactly what it says, whether you ever want to go straight across or if you want to take it on an angle across your shape. And if we do update preview, you can see it's filled that rectangle shape with the lines instead. So it would literally draw that.
Okay, so means when you cut these or draw them?
So with the line fill you would draw it. Everything else you can cut or draw. When you're choosing which to use, just bear in mind any fragile elements that you may have. So if you're working with something like the single line font, for instance, you know that's going to be a draw. If you're working with a scripty font that has some really fine line work to it, you know it's going to be a draw. It's just a little bit of common sense, I think.
Sally says, is it because of I've got no font on the screen? Could be. Carol says, in text I only have text size and font, the others are greyed out, and she still can't access all the effects.
Okay, so just type some text. Go to your move tool, so make sure you got your handles round, and then go to your effects, and they should all look like that. So if you can just let me know. If they don't look like that, then it may just be you need to change your font. So if you've got the single line font text, as you saw in my scripty one, it didn't like to do the effects on that. So just try and go for something that's a bit bolder, got some weight to it, so that you can do these effects. So if I do the line fill on this one, for instance, just so you can see it, it's going to literally fill that with your lines.
Joy says, I'll have to watch later what time this afternoon is starting. So this afternoon will be starting at 2 o'clock.
So I'm going to put these lines a little bit closer together. And then we can update preview, and you can see then that your lines are going to get closer together, so that when we're using a thinner pen, you're going to get a more consistent solid.
Okay, before we go too far. Answers don't really understand. Perhaps you can show us them working. Carol's got it. Okay, that's cool. If you send it to Canvas as cut but you want to draw, can you change it in Canvas?
Yes.
Yes. That was off Deb. And Sarah Lou sent you a screenshot. I think it's already converted it, Sarah Lou, because next to where you have hello, it doesn't say text, it's got a drop down menu. So if you drop it down, I think you'll find it's already got all your...
Yeah, so if you look on my screen at this top hello here, which is the one that's selected at the moment, you can see it's got a little T on the little sheet saying hello. So that means it's still text. Whereas this one, where it's being put through that warp, you can see that it's individual elements now, rather than being text.
Yeah, she's got like a little folder with a circle on it.
Yeah, it's a little group. It's little G.
Little G is it's hard to see because it's small on my screen. So.
Yeah, it's a little G. Okay, and any shadow that you apply would be the same. It's going to be path rather than text. Okay.
So that'd be why it won't be able to do the converted ghost because it's already done it. Yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can't convert it twice. Or at least not under that panel. So, let's go for another rectangle. And I'm sorry that my mat is starting to look a bit messy. But it's a bit difficult to fit everything in and zoom in. So that you can see everything nicely. So,
you could delete some stuff.
I could delete some stuff. So, puzzle generator is pretty much what it says on the tin. It's going to generate a jigsaw puzzle. I'll talk a bit more about that later. QR code, if you want to include a website link or some text or a link to a video, you can use QR code to do that. Rhinestones is the next one. Yay! So you can see that we can pick our stone size and all the details here. So that's something to bear in mind, that when you are working with this, ideally you want to match stones that you have to hand, because it does alter how you do the stencils. So you can see that we have stone size, and you can choose your spacing. You can either fill the shape with stones, or you can have it go around the outside. So as I've got a solid shape here, I'll go fill shape with stones. You can adjust spacing to fit your path if you want to. So if we go preview, we can see that it's going to fill our box with little rhinestones. So as we change our stone size, that you can actually change how that pattern works. So if I go, actually I'm going to go for some 2 millstones, and we can actually do it that way.
It also tells you how many stones you need.
Yeah,
Stone count
147. So if you need to do a little bit of
but it was 322, so yeah.
there we go. So you can decrease your stone spacing and just pull that back in so it fits nicer.
And so it says brilliant, that makes sense, thank you.
Okay. So have you all downloaded the file I put up in the group to download? Just want to make sure.
If not, do it
in the break, yeah. Okay. So, title call, and wave and wrapper are again all ways that we can work with text to get them to round an object. So with SCAL you have the advantage of having multiple artboards in one document. So if we go to page and add page, we can actually add an additional page to our document. So you might do that and think, oh no, I've lost everything I've done. No, it's just down here. We can click back on page 1. It's going to go to page 1. Click on page 2. It's going to go to page 2. And we can also add a new page down here at the bottom. And it's going to come up saying page 3. And so on and so forth. So if you want to give each one of these a different colour, you can do.
Can you name them?
Yes, you can name them. So I'm just going to delete those out there. Then we have layers. So one thing that we haven't really got onto yet is using layers. So layers are a good way of dividing up your document so it makes sense to you. So if you want to put all your print elements together, you can do that. If you want to put all your cut elements together into one layer, you can do that, and another one for your drawer. So that everything stays together. Paths we will get onto after dinner, because they're lovely to work with, honestly. You don't need to be afraid of paths. It's just practice. So under path, the top section is all about calculations. So union is basically welding and adding together. So that's going to take 2 shapes and make one. Intersection is the space that overlaps between 2 shapes. so that's going to take 2 shapes and make one, but one little one. You have exclude, which means that anything that is overlapping is going to be removed, so that you have a little hole or gap where anything overlaps. Front minus back means that it's going to take the back object from the front, and you have the back minus front, so the front object from the back, just to make it really complicated.
At least it does it both ways though, rather than...
Well, yes, yeah. Simplify. So if you've heard me talk about nodes before, when I'm saying that you need to have as fewer nodes as possible in your design, simplify is the way to get the computer to work that out for you rather than you having to do it. So if you've done a freehand drawn line with your pencil tool, for instance, and you've ended up with loads of nodes, then you can use simplify to tidy that up. Same if you have a complex font that you just want to have it sort itself out, then you can use simplify to do that too. And then it's all into nodes. So you can split a path, which basically means that you can open it up or split it into 2. You can reverse the path, which is useful if you are finding that you're having problems welding. Then reversing paths can solve that issue for you without you having to do too much interfering with nodes. You'll be glad to hear, so that one's your best friend. Object to path means it can turn anything into a path, so whether that's a rectangle, a circle, or even your text, if your text is no longer text. If you want to just apply that path, then you can use that one. Close path is literally, it's going to take the start and end point and join them together in as straight a line as possible. Join paths is when you have 2 paths that you want to make one. So if it's one path that's open, you're going to go for close path. If it's 2 paths that you want to make one, you can go and join them. Offset path is how you do shadows and outlines.
Karen asked where we find the file. So if you go into the Introduction Shortcuts lot group where you found the video, there should be a link to a
free file.
Is it design bundles or is it Cricut? Can't remember.
I'm pretty sure it was design bundles.
Okay.
Pretty sure. But it's a freebie, so. And straight to path means that you can take the outline, so with our hello text that we've got just underneath where my mouse is, where you've got that red outline, we can actually turn that into its own path. So that's a really useful way of creating a frame element for your text. Or if you want to create a frame for a rectangle.
Design bundles. Aha, there you go.
I was going to say I'm sure, but I know I did both yesterday, so I was like a bit doubtful, but I'm sure it's design bundles, yeah. Object. So this is going to be much more familiar to you. So you have your move, rotate, scale. So pretty much the same as what you find in your position tab over the right hand side. You'll find it all in there too. You have your arrange. So in your layers palette at the moment, the topmost object is what's at the front. So where it says bring to front, that's going to be at the top of the list. And where it says centre back, that's going to be at the bottom of your list. And you have these 2 in the middle to move things up and down one layer. So again, when you've got some objects on your mat, have a play with that one. Align, we have all the same options again as in our position. And you have distribute as well. So distribute helps you to even up the space between elements. So you have distribute space horizontally and vertically, and you can also go to objects as well.
Right, Deb says she's lost on paths, but if you're going to go through again later, I can wait.
Yes, I am going to go through paths. So as I said, I'm going to have you drawing flowers.
Why you make me draw flowers? I'm not on a computer.
Break apart is useful for whenever you have a shape that you want to get to a part of. So for instance, if you've converted your hello to a path and you want to change the centre of the O, you can use break apart to do that. It's a bit like divide when you're using Canvas or other design software. You have clipping as well. So again, clipping is something that is a bit more advanced. So I will touch on it later and go into more depth in the course in March. So by the end of today, I'm planning on you doing a nice simple card design that you can actually create from scratch. So duplicate. Duplicate is fun. So when you do duplicate, you're going to go, right, okay, yep, that's what I want. I just want one extra. No. That will leave you with exactly what you have selected. So what you need to do is you actually need to use your columns and rows. And you see, if you go up to 2, it's going to put 2 copies on your mat. If you take your rows up, you're going to see that it puts 4. So that's the way to think about it. You can also control the spacing, so if you want to actually have it so that you can try and match up your pattern, you can do that. So I'm going to nudge that down very slightly. And you can also group your duplicate when it's done. So if you're happy when you've got everything lining up, you can just go, okay, I'll have that as a group.
Joe says she'll be back at 2.
Okay.
Okay, the file's in the, there's a link to it in the introduction to shortcuts slot group, and it links to design bundles, Carol. If you scroll down a bit on the page, it's about halfway down, I think.
Under edit you have all your usual undo, redo, cut, copy, paste, paste in place. So that means that it's going to paste it exactly where you copied it from. The select all, so Command A on a Mac or Control A on PC, and you can deselect all too. The bottom 2 are Mac only as far as I'm aware, so you can ignore them. And you do have access to your preferences under that tab too. Finally, we have file. So, Command N for a new project, Command O for open project. So when you're on a PC, just swap the commands for controls. Close project. So again, that's going to close it down. Save. If we do that on a project that hasn't been saved yet, it's still going to do a save as. But each time that you then click that after, it's going to be overwriting. So that's something you would want to be aware of. And I'll even call it the same thing as what I've called it in the document. So if you want to make sure that you don't overwrite, go to Save Projects As, which is Command Shift and S or Control Shift and S. You have Revert. Now Revert is like a very big undo button. So if you want to go back to the file as you opened it, then that's when you use Revert. So if you've had a really bad day and everything you've done has gone totally wrong, you can go to Revert and rescue it. And there are occasions when you want to do that. So, for instance, it could be that you are doing 30 mugs and they've each got a different name. You can keep using Revert to go back to your template document, for instance. Import. So you can import images, SVG files, all straight into SCAL and use them. So that's why I'm getting you to download those lovely images so that we can do importing after lunch. Exporting. So if we let go on export. And this is how we're going to send our files to cut for those machines that you cannot directly link to. So some cutters are quite happy to link directly to shortcuts a lot, others are not. So if we go into format, you can see that we can save it as an SVG as our top option. Okay, and for most of the time, excuse me, that is what you're probably going to use. Now, if you have a ScanNCut, you can go down to ScanNCut and you can see it's got the .fcm. And that means that you can save the file to USB and take it straight to your machine, no canvas required. So as long as you've set your draw and your cut correctly, then you know that you can just go to that FCM and it will be plain sailing. So we've given it a good test, haven't we? I've tried everything to break it. So as I said, just be aware that just bring it in from the edges. If you do forget, you can resize, but obviously if you're doing a print and cut, that's not going to be accurate. Okay. You also have the option to trace an image, place an image, scan to cut. So if you haven't got a ScanNCut, you can use ScanNCut to do that function for you. You also have a batch convert to FCM, which can be very handy. So if you want to do a whole load of SVGs to FCM, you can do. And you also have send to shortcuts a lot too, for those that are using Cricuts and older machines that aren't supporting shortcuts a lot 5. Share and get shapes. So I was going to get Ian to do a little bit on this because you set this one up, didn't you, Ian?
Not all right, it's only the last bit that's different.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So you can get extra shapes. You can sync your purchases. So if you do switch your computer, which I know at least one of you want to.
Question for you.
Go on.
Claire's asked, can you import a JPEG?
Yes.
Often useful for a phone too.
Yeah, so go to place image rather than import. There's a difference. Okay, so download manager, a bit obvious really. Share projects is if you want to share your project out.
Get shapes.
Oh,
You may need to register for the marketplace and then it'll appear.
Which is why I was going to get Ian to do that bit, because he did that bit for me. So you can see you've also got your login there and your published content online. So with the marketplace, you actually have the option to actually sell your designs. So when you get confident with creating in SCAL, and one of my things is that you need to practice and practice and practice. And then you can look at actually starting to derive an income from it. So a lot of software do eventually pay back their prices, don't they?
Yeah.
So for instance, when we bought the font software, it's paid for itself already, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
make it pay. Bit practice and make it pay. Finally, you have your print options. So you have your page setup and your print. So if I go to page setup, you can see that it's just basically your operating system page setup. So you can choose which printer. Oh, excuse me, will you stop it? And the paper you want to use. No, you just stretch.
You don't, I stretch too. Usually the other way around.
Yeah. Okay. So print, you have some shortcuts, a lot of specific settings. So you have print registration marks, which as we know at the moment isn't working its best. So we will see what we can do about that and get that sorted for you. You can print outlines only. So if you only want to print your cut lines, which is useful for if you're weeding, it's top tip. then you can do that through here and just do print outlines only. If you only want to print the items that you have selected, you can do print selection only. So for instance, if you have only part of a design that you want to actually print at a time, you can just select those items and just print selection only. If we go on the little drop down, we can then get to the other parts of our printer driver. So these will look different according to your printer. And when you're happy, you can click print and off it pops. So that's taking you through more or less the entirety of the interface. So there's a lot to it, and what I would say is over break, just have a little play just with some text and those effects, and then you'll start to get a grasp on what they each do. When we come back, hopefully you'll have downloaded the file so that we can bring those in, and we can have a play and create a nice little card design.
Kind of already done it yesterday. Didn't realise it was today.
I think I put it up both in this group and in the ScanNCut group. So
Claire says I'm not seeing shortcuts a lot in printer.
okay. It may be that if you're on a PC it appears somewhere slightly differently. But you should have at least some shortcuts, a lot of settings. Trying to think what it looks like on a PC to know where to go.
I don't know, I've never used it on a PC.
No, like the program specific print settings. Because it looks totally different on a Mac to a PC. If you send me a screenshot of what you're seeing for your printer, I'll try my best to give you a little pointer where to look. Again, do that to the group rather than trying to do it into the comments in the video, because that won't let you attach images.
Yeah, so it's not on my PC either, so it might be a PC thing. So if one of you can drop us a screenshot of what you see, and we'll try and let you know where to look for it.
Okay, so I'm just going to cancel that.
The counter's not on hers either. The counter's on a Mac.
That's novel.
Okay, it looks as if I'm not getting that option.
I haven't added anything particular to get it, you know. I haven't. No, it's not even in there. Should really switch to that one.
That's just it's okay on my Mac.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, I think.
Let's have a look. Let's see what.
Okay.
I shall await a screenshot.
So while we're waiting, so let's get some text, and we're gonna have a very quick practice before we break
It just has
up.
them at the bottom. It has them separate. So the bits that we can see that are on the shortcuts a lot options are just literally at the bottom there. So you've got the print outlines only, print registration marks, and print selection mode. So they are literally just at the bottom of your print options. So where we have a separate menu for it, it's plopped them at the bottom. It could well be. Is it print or print settings I should be looking at? So
Print.
Print. So if you go to print, it should come up on there.
Yeah. Your page setup settings only use what's in your operating system rather than your printer driver. So it's a bit of a useless screen, really, isn't it? Because it doesn't accurately reflect what your printer's capable
So yes,
of.
on the PC it literally comes up as 3 tick boxes underneath where you have your print range. So there's no separate drop down for your things. Not sure with yours, Carol. I might have to have a look at that in the break. I'll come and do a team viewer quick and have a look just to see.
Okay, so I'm going to put congratulations for mine so that I can have a bit more of a play with.
And thank you, Sarah Lee, for the screenshot. Actually found it. Hey, okay.
So I'm just going to play with this one a little bit. So if we do straight, that just means it's going to literally do a straight line up to that centre point and back down again. If we untick that and go back to update, it's going to go to a round. We can change whether we want that bottom to curve or not. So it's really useful for when you want to apply text to a particular shape. All of these warping tools are there to help you. So if you want to put your text onto a bauble, if you want to put your text onto a mug that has angled sides, then use your warp tools to help you out. Okay, so Bridge Warp is going to do your curves where you want to play with it. Let's go for wrapper. So unlike what this sounds like, it's not this going to break into verse. It is literally that it is going to wrap around something. So you can choose your top diameter. So in this case, let's make it a little bit bigger, shall we? And we have bottom diameter, and we can say that our slant height is going to be a bit bigger. Let's at least make it remotely mug-like. And we can go update preview. And you can see it's going to wrap our text as if it's going to go around this shape. And we can see straight away that we've got an overlap. So that means that we've either got to make our text smaller or choose a different word.
Make your box big.
Yeah, or choose a bigger mug. Those are your options. But if you're
she still only has nest possible QR.
okay, try changing your font to something else, because it could be that you're just working with something that isn't capable of doing it. So, trying to find one that won't do it for me now, just because. So we can do title crawl. So the way to think of this one is that it's like the beginning of a Star Wars movie. So where you've got that text going back along your perspective, then that's your title crawl. So you'll notice that more if you do like multi-line text. So if you've got like congratulations on your ... then you'll notice that with each line it's going to get bigger and bigger.
The wrapper one, will that out with the shape attached?
Right, so wrapper, there we go. So because I've changed my font, you can see it now fits on my wrapper.
So if you send that to your ScanNCut like that, it would cut the wrapper and the congratulations. Or
Okay, you have an option here to add the template. So as long as that's ticked, it should add the shape around the outside if you untick that. So you can see if I just hover over it, there it is with its wrapper. So if I go down into the group, you can see that we have our outside wrapper shape and then all our individual characters in no particular order.
So does it automatically group it, does it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, automatic puts it as group.
Pick it up and move it, it moves all of it together. So.
Yeah, so just make sure that it's all blue when you're trying to move it, and then you can move it around your mat. So if you're thinking, right, okay, well, I want that out of one colour and all the text out of another, you can do that. And that's a good opportunity actually. Let's put in another page and let's give it a colour. Let's colour it pink because I can. So there's my pink page. So let's say I've got the congratulations, and I'm going to use my shift and click to highlight all those letters in blue. Okay. I can then go to edit and cut. And it's supposed to cut it. It's supposed to behave. Come on. Okay. And edit. Let's see if it'll paste it in place. Nope, it's not going to have it today. Okay, we'll ungroup it first then. So to ungroup, you can just do Command Shift and G or Control Shift and G, and it's going to ungroup it all.
She's got to go food shopping, so she says you'll catch up later.
Okay, so we're going to select that text.
No, thank you.
That's okay. And I'm going to go to edit and cut. It's going to really have one of those today.
Copy.
It was having glitches yesterday, wasn't it? I wouldn't want to copy between the two. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I remember struggling with the thingy. Let's try that again. Come on. There we go. So I have my text.
What did you do to get rid of it?
I used the keyboard instead. It's obviously got glitches today. So if I go to paste in place, you can see it's going to paste it in the same place as what it would have been on this mat. So now I can cut this shape from one colour of vinyl and this shape from another colour so that I can layer it up.
And says maybe you could make us a nice shortcut sheet like the Canvas workspace one.
That is planned.
Yeah.
So yes, there's going to be a shortcuts a lot worksheet, and there's also going to be a shortcuts a lot version of the new book, because I just ran out of room. Didn't I?
Says I can't get my effects, they are pale grey.
Okay, if it's pale grey, like that, that means it's already been converted to a shape. Okay, so all you need to do then is just create a new bit of text and then practice for that new bit of text. But once it's kind of a shape as such, then it's just make sure that you click onto it, and sometimes it will ping back, sometimes it won't, because now it's going to go and do it for me just because I want it to show me it not working.
And Joe says, oh, I'd buy that book. And Anne says, hooray!
So just try and click back on it and make sure you've got your handles up and try again and see if it'll come back. Because sometimes it's a bit, what's the
Glitchy.
word? Yeah, glitchy. But for what it can do, for what it costs, it's actually pretty darn good. Really, when you look at how much Illustrator costs and CrowdDraw costs.
It's a lot better than Canvas, which I've been struggling with.
Canvas is okay in small doses. My favourite out of all of them is still Affinity. I just find that it just works how my brain works, and that's the way to kind of approach any software, is does it think like you do. But
it seems to do more, doesn't it? It does do more. Yeah, it does a lot more than.
Oh yeah, I mean
without paying
rhinestones.
For the extras.
Yeah, rhinestones you have to pay for the extra kit, and this is what bugs me a little bit about the ScanNCut, is that you have to pay for this extra bit and this extra bit. And the trouble is, by the time you paid for all those extra bits, you may as well have just gone and bought Illustrator or CorelDRAW, because you then got a whole load of.
I'm having problems finding download. If you scroll back through the messages, I put it up as a link in the comments. If you scroll back to find that. If Andy said my brain doesn't work with most things slow. Control and Z girls. Yeah, Control and Z might work with you. Sarah saying the undo's not working. So
Yeah. So Command and Z or Control and Z if you're on a PC. Or the big green button.
Another one with undo not working. I have to close the app and reload. Frustrating when I'm in the middle of doing something. The undo doesn't always work.
Yeah, it's glitchy.
Yeah.
I have to say, based on what I've kind of the experience that I have with shortcuts a lot compared to other programs is you need to be saving a lot more with shortcuts to a lot of other things. So like Affinity, I could do an all day session and save at the end, and I know that it would have my back. So if it crashes, I know it's going to pull everything back right up to the last thing that I did before it crashed.
And Sarah did have I love Canvas, but use this for tracing mainly with die cuts that we are able to copy.
Yep. It's also good for using with PNGs. So the files that I got you to download are PNGs with transparent backgrounds, and I have to say it sold me it just on the basis of what it does with those, as you'll see when you try and bring one in a bit, because it's just like, oh, that's so easy.
Sunny sorted herself out. That's okay. She's lost the handles, but she's got them again.
Okay. What I will do, just because that text on that pink is a bit...
And Deb says best idea is to save often, maybe. Yeah, well,
yes.
That's it. That's what we say to people all the time these days. Save frequently, because you never know. I mean, any software can crash at any time, so it's always worth saving what you're doing on a regular basis. And if you've got your Mac and got something like Time Machine turned on, it's not so much of a biggie, but not all of them do that, so...
Uh-oh. I'm getting a whirring circle.
You're going to crash it now, are you?
Probably. So what I will do is... Oh, I think it's doing that stupid thing again, Ian.
Oh, okay.
That's not a shortcut a lot issue. That's my Mac issue. So I'm just going to save that one as congratulations mug.
Oh, thank you, Claire, for putting the link back up for me with the image to download later. And Evander said that's one of many I don't get image tracing.
Okay.
So I'll do that a bit later. If you...
Yes. Yeah. So you'll see that when we bring in the PNGs, it's going to do it for you.
And Sarah says, yes, I do that too, Nat. Right, you got 5 minutes.
Okay. So any questions before we go for a break? Do have a practice over the break and download the file if you haven't done so already, and so we're ready to go.
The link is in the comments and it's also on the page, so they're both there.
Okay, so I have in my little book about 6 exercises that I wanted to get done today, but I'm probably going to get about 4 of them done.
Yep, so yes, Corrine, it's the olives that need to be downloaded, yeah.
Yeah. And then we can create a nice little fun card design after. So take care for now, have a nice lunch, come back with a nice drink, and we'll see you at 2.
I might be a little late back doing Doug's lunch and a quick walk. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't know to really thank you. That's cool.